We've got a new tropical depression in the Atlantic, which is forecast to become a hurricane. Some active flooding in our area right now, and this potential tropical development area that could be with us all of next week. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back at Meteo Mundo. It is fantastic to see you on a Wednesday. I hope you're doing well. Coming up in this video, we continue to have active tropical areas in the Atlantic, the potential development in the Western Caribbean and into the Gulf of Mexico, and some heavy rain and storms across our area today. So we're going to get right into the video. As always, I appreciate my Meteo Mundo weather community. Thank you for all of our commenters who drop a comment in the section below. Let me know what's going on in your area, what the weather has been like. As you can see, we're beginning to slowly get back all of our data. We have our enhanced satellite imagery. Our live lightning data has returned. If you didn't know, the data center that feeds this is actually in Asheville, North Carolina, that was directly impacted by Hurricane Helene. Starting to get that data feed to come back. And obviously our thoughts are still with our friends there in portions of the southeast United States where the impacts of Helene are still being felt in a very, very serious way. So let's get into what's happening right now. I'm actually going to start off in our eastern areas today. You can see again on the enhanced satellite imagery, things look relatively quiet, but au contraire, when I switch over to this visible satellite imagery, and there's still one little bad frame there, so I'm going to take a second just to pause this. Friends, I want you to look right past this here. Do you see this? This is early afternoon today. Look at all of these big white clouds blowing up on the visible satellite imagery. We again have had some locally heavy, even flooding rains in portions of the Lesser Antilles. We'll start off in Barbados, my friends in Spacetown, and down towards the Bridgetown area. Very heavy rain across the island today. There again, active flood warnings as I'm recording this video on this late Wednesday afternoon. Some areas have had more than 2 to 3 inches of rain, 50 to 75 millimeters, and even some spots that are a little bit higher. And you can clearly see these bright whites, which are going to be the higher cloud tops on this Viz satellite imagery, are very present across a lot of the islands. Dominica, Martinique, some areas of St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Look at this blow up of storms over portions of Trinidad and a couple of isolated showers over Tobago as well. Let me put this back into motion. I'm going to take this time frame down just a little bit, but you can clearly see again a big blow up of storms. Look at all of the lightning there on the southern sides of the island. And again, it's the same situation, maybe not as much for Grenada for today, but at least a couple of spotty showers. Again, where you have those brighter whites, you have at least the opportunity for some of those showers to form. And as I take you up the islands, you're going to see that Guadeloupe, Antigua, Montserrat, Barbuda. Now look, not all these places got it, not all these places got the heavier, widespread rain, but there are pockets of heavy rain across the island chain today, even up in the Leeward Islands, Anguilla, St. Bart's, Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Kitts, and Nevis, and then on over towards the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. It's the same scenario again. This northeast flow has provided the opportunity for some heavier rain. It's a little bit spottier in the British Virgin Islands today, but we've had a few showers drift by. You can see some of the lightning strikes quickly develop over the St. Croix area there, just to the south. We've had a few showers near St. Thomas, St. John, Vieques and Culebra, and then especially on the southern side of Puerto Rico, towards Guayama and Ponce, Yalco. All of these showers and storms trying to drift back off to the south and to the west. We've had a few storms also over Nueva Esparta towards portions of the Venezuelan coastline. And then we're trying to get a little bit of rain and a few showers to drift over the ABC Islands for today. You can see those clouds developing, a little bit of moisture associated with this. My friend Jaden sent me this photo of the clouds developing in the afternoon hours today in Aruba. You can see some of those darker bases. Again, that means there's more moisture there with those darker clouds at the base. So hopefully some of the ABC Islands have gotten a little bit of rain today. If you have and you live there, let me know. Appreciate Jaden sending me in that photo. Let's get back out to what's happening right now over portions of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. A little bit more active weather today, especially on the Haitian side, Port-au-Prince, on over towards the peninsula, towards Lacaille. Scattered showers and storms going to try and get going a little bit more. Domingo, Punta Cana, but the moisture is a little bit better on the western side of the island for today. So again, Port-au-Prince south with a better chance for some showers and storms. Going to switch over to the enhanced satellite imagery here, and let's pick up what's happening right now for my friends in Jamaica. We've had some cloud coverage for today. It's actually been fairly hot. It's been fairly steamy with these low-hanging clouds, but we are getting a little bit of rain to develop. Now, A lot of this is still just some cloud coverage, but a few showers and storms have tried to develop here over the last couple of hours. Let me pause this real quick. And at least over the last couple of hours, they've been actually towards the northern coastline, places like Ocho Rios and Falmouth and Port Maria, all with at least some cloud coverage. And again, a little bit of rain activity there. You can see nice lightning strikes developing off the northern coastline. We've had some lightning strikes off of the mainland to the south and to the east, and a few storms just trying to get going again just to the west of the island. If you live in the Negril, Savlamar area, look off towards the west, you're going to probably see some of those darker bases and some of those decent thunderstorms. But again, we're beginning to get on the edge of all of this moisture associated with this broad circulation, okay? And again, let me take this loop back down just a couple of hours here. You can clearly see the broad spin. Now, again, this is not going to become anything tropical, at least over the next 48 or 72 hours, more than likely, but it's still promoting some hefty showers and storms. And you're seeing some of that developing over Cuba right now. This moisture has been able to stream farther to the north, so we're seeing good rains over Cuba, and some of this is now beginning to reach portions of the Turks, the Caicos, and the southeast Bahamas. And you can clearly see, again, that moisture beginning to overspread. So as I zoom in here towards the Acklands, on over towards Long Island and Exuma and Rum Key and San Salvador, certainly the opportunity for some scattered showers and storms here. Generally speaking, actually, the farther north you go in the Bahamas for today, the drier it's going to be. We're going to try and get a couple of showers and storms towards Andros, probably even south of New Providence. Maybe Cat Island catches something, but a little bit drier air, a little bit lower chances for Walker's Key, Grand Bahama, Freeport, Lucaya, the Abacos, Bimini areas. Again, Eleuthera, not as high of a chance there. My friend Craig sent another beautiful shot from, this is Gorda Key, Bahamas. Look at that shot early this morning. Nothing but glass on the old water. There's been fantastic boating forecast lately in the Bahamas. Nice little drier spell. I know it's been pretty hot out there, but appreciate Craig and Jaden sending me in those photos. Again, myMediaMundo@gmail.com if you want to send me a picture or video. Back out to the broad view. Again, we're going to get into what might be happening in this area coming up, but as of today, we continue to see scattered showers and storms. Easy for me to say, over the Yucatan Peninsula back down towards Belize. And again, they're developing mainly inland. So at least right now, places like Cancun, Cozumel, Tulum, a little bit on the drier side. Some of this is going to try and skirt towards Chechemal, Orange Walk, San Pedro, Belize City and Belize, and then kind of just drift their way to the south. And then it's scattered showers and storms for today for the rest of Central America. Honduras, back over towards Nicaragua, scattered showers and storms for Costa Rica and into Panama. Not as widespread as what we've had lately. Again, our monsoonal trough is lifting to the north with this big Central American gyre. So we're going to be slightly drier over the next couple of days farther to the south. And we do have a new tropical depression, 11E. And we're going to talk about how this is all going to come together for what might be happening next week in the Gulf of Mexico. As we get into the forecast, friends, I appreciate you guys. Do me a quick favor, liking this video right now. Again, dropping a comment as well. Both of those probably support the channel more than you realize, and I do appreciate that. If you're not a subscriber to Meteo Mundo, click that subscribe button right now. Thanks for joining our community for the daily forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas and your tropical updates across the Atlantic Basin. Thank you for sharing this with your family and friends as well. Okay, so now we're going to get into kind of what's going to be happening over the next few days, and then we'll get into the tropics and look at every system individually and how they're all going to play out. Now, of course, in the shorter term here, we're going to continue to see ample moisture in the Western Caribbean in general and into the Yucatan as well. Still just have a 40% chance of development with this system. This could end up being a very sloppy, weak system, but a huge rainmaker with still an opportunity for it to wrap up into something at least of medium strength. Again, today, there's still a lot of question marks on how this is going to end up evolving. And if you're a weather geek like I am, you got to love these forecasts because they're actually complicated and you got to really deep dive into it. So we're going to talk about how this could all play out with a lot of different factors in play. But in the shorter term, wet weather is going to try and drive in. Didn't mention the Cayman Islands, and I meant to, but we've certainly had some rain across the area today. Certainly could see some locally heavy downpours over the next couple of days as well. So watch out for that for our friends in the Cayman Islands. And again, that moisture will continue to flow in. We'll kind of see the cutoff over Jamaica and the eastern sides of Cuba. I think more than anything, as this pushes north and west, we dry out a little bit in those areas. Scattered rain over the Bahamas the next few days as well. And again, all of this spin will continue to promote higher rain chances in the western side of the area. But again, that being said, local showers and storms will continue to develop over the Lesser Antilles. So relatively speaking, it's a fairly active forecast. So let's get into it. I'm going to show you the model here over the next couple of days, and then we'll deep dive into your island by island rain chance coming up as well, so stick around for that. So let's break this down. Bring up the loop. Let's bring up the model time frame here. You get over the next 3 days. We'll get back into the Northwest Caribbean to begin with. You can just see this slug of moisture coming in. Now, in the short term again, this is going to be sloppy, disorganized rain, but it could be a fair amount of heavy rain. We could have locally a couple of inches of rain each and every day, maybe 50 to 75 millimeters in a couple of spots in one day. And then you add that up, and there could be some isolated flooding in the Northwest Caribbean. The Cayman Islands could see some of that, Cuba, portions of Quintana Roo, and Central America, especially up towards Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, and Belize. Those are all areas that could see some heavier rain. Obviously, Mexico is going to be involved in this in general because you have the spin from Tropical Depression 11E with a lot of that moisture again trying to stream back into the Gulf of Mexico. But on this NAM model, you can just clearly see how wet and disorganized but broad the rain is going to be. And then we're going to deep dive into the tropical models coming up here as we get into next week. But it's just a wet forecast here. Scattered showers will persist over the Bahamas. Again, we catch some of this moisture on the northeast side. We're certainly not going to get the majority of it, but it'll promote a little bit more rain overall than what we've seen across the islands the next couple of days. Turks and Caicos will be included in that. And again, it's still scattered for Jamaica. I think you're going to get a few days of decent rain chances, but look, don't be shocked if your area doesn't see a lot of rain over the next couple of days. At least the opportunity is there. Otherwise, it will still be fairly cloudy and fairly humid. You get the cloud coverage, but you may not get all the heavier rain that areas off to the west get. Spotty showers and storms will continue to persist over the Dominican Republic and Haiti. And again, still enough moisture in play where I think we have a decent chance for rain over the next 3 days. Nothing extremely concentrated. Notice that the winds will still kind of almost be out of the north and to the east, and that might promote a few more showers on the northern sides of the island early, and then the heavier rain developing on the western and southwest sides of the island as that moisture moves through and lifts up, of course, with the terrain. So spotty showers along the north coast, like we saw today, but heftier rain on the southern coastline because of more of that northeast breeze. I think that's the same situation for Puerto Rico and the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands as well. But of course, you live in a smaller area, that's not going to be as pronounced. The bigger islands will have more of that orographic lift. But if you do have some more mountainous terrain in the area that you live, there is that opportunity that on the southwest side of that, you might get a little bit more rain. So for Anguilla, St. Bart's, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, Saba, St. Eustatius, Montserrat, Guadeloupe, Dominica, I've got some pretty decent rain chances for you the next few days. Again, nothing extremely concentrated. I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, Guadeloupe has an exceptionally higher chance for rain compared to Anguilla, but the rain chances overall will be pretty decent. And again, this has nothing to do with a tropical area. We do not have a tropical wave coming through, but we do have some lift in the mid-levels of the atmosphere promoting these scattered showers and storms. It's a trough is what we call it. St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, all in the same situation here. Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, Nueva Esparta, and the ABC Islands. Again, the opportunity to catch some scattered showers and storms. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, just real quickly, there is this mid-level low spinning right over Bermuda. Never going to become tropical in nature. You can clearly see that spin, and that will promote a few showers over that area the next couple days as well. So here we go. For the Bahamas, 30% chance of the northwest side tomorrow, slightly higher at 40% on Friday, 30 on Saturday. Going to keep it at a 30% chance for the central and southeast Bahamas over the next few days. Turks and Caicos, a couple of showers here or there, nothing concentrated. Much heavier, much more widespread rains for Cuba, especially central, western sides of the islands. Cayman Islands, again, high rain chances through tomorrow. Still decent Friday, should begin to fall a bit Saturday as that moisture moves into the Gulf and tails off a bit. For Belize City, just going to keep it at a 60% chance. Waves of rain, some of that could be on the heavier side as well, so keep that in mind. Cancun and Cozumel stay on the active side as well. 70% chance for rain Friday and Saturday. Again, decent rain chances for Jamaica, but Cayman Islands are going to be higher, so you get the idea. The further east that you go, the rain chances fall a bit. 40 tomorrow, Friday. Dominican Republic, Haiti, 30 tomorrow, 40 Friday, Saturday. Puerto Rico, U.S. and British Virgin Islands, about the same situation. Again, I've talked about the areas of the islands I think will get the heavier rainfall, but overall, we're scattered to isolated in nature. Bermuda's rain chances are decent at 40% chance, slightly higher in Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis the next couple of days, solid 50% chance, 40 on Saturday. Antigua Barbuda's highest chances are tomorrow, then they'll fall off. Excuse me. This should say, and I apologize, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So Thursday, tomorrow, 50% chance, tailing off into the early part of the weekend. So higher chances overall for tomorrow, Thursday, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, and then the rain chances fall a bit, but there'll be a couple of areas here that I've highlighted that might have a little bit better chance for rain late Friday into Saturday. Again, this should be Saturday. I apologize. St. Vincent, St. Lucian, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines at around a 50% shot. All right, we're back to the correct headers here. For Barbados, 50% chance tomorrow and Friday, 40 on Saturday. We're going to stay with the 50% chance in Grenada. I've upped the rain chances for Trinidad and Tobago, 60% chance the next few days, and some of that could be heavy rain. Watch out for some isolated street and urban flooding, especially in Trinidad over the next couple of days. Could be some locally heavy rainfall. Again, it's isolated, but it could be there. Suriname and Guyana, decent rain chances as well. Nueva Esparta, 30% chance over the next few days, and we'll catch a few passing showers in the ABC Islands. Okay, time now to talk tropics. So let's get into that. We're going to deep dive into these areas. And we are going to start off with this area close to home here in the Northwest Caribbean and into the Gulf of Mexico. So we're going to look at the models coming up, no doubt about it. First thing I want to do here is actually, I need to do this real fast. It's basically a reset of my system. Oh, come on, baby. Let's see. All right. I'm trying a couple of things, so stick with me here. There we go. Every so often, this one feature sticks, and then I have to kind of cycle through to get it back. Anyway, we're good to go. So 40% chance still, okay? Again, in the short term, this is going to be a rainmaker for the areas that I've already mentioned. But it starts to get very interesting towards the end of the weekend and especially next week. Again, we have this Central American gyre. This is an inherent large area of spin over Central America as part of the monsoonal flow that develops this time of the year. We've already spun up a tropical depression because of that on the far southwest side, which is going to slowly basically skirt Mexico towards Acapulco, but some of that moisture will drift into the southwest side of the Gulf of Mexico, where we already have an area of showers and storms beginning to develop, and that's outside of this spin in the Northwest Caribbean. All right, there's a lot of different features that are going to play a factor in this. All of them right now are relatively weak. Down the road, we're eventually going to get, because it's early October, a weak cold front slipping into the southeast United States. Now, this time of the year, they don't have a big push of cooler air and stronger winds, but it is going to build in an area of high pressure here, which may try and keep this system a little bit farther to the south in the Gulf of Mexico overall. And that will all depend on timing, how quickly something might try and develop here, and how the timing of that cold front, because it may not arrive until at least mid next week. So there's still ample time for something to develop and try and track to the north. But the models have been trending later and later with development, and overall weaker and sloppier. There's still some that try and get a little bit more progressive, a little bit more active, and I'm going to show you that coming up right now. So we'll go over to the GFS first. We'll look at the GFS deterministic. Let me pull this out a full week, and then we'll look at the GFS ensemble members, and we'll look at the European model ensemble members as well. And there's a couple of other areas of interest. So there's a lot to talk about tropically here for the first week of October. So this is the latest run of the GFS deterministic model. Again, this is the main run of the GFS. The ensemble members that I'll show you, and there's 51 members altogether, basically start off with slightly different initial conditions, which is why they ultimately have slightly different outputs. And some of them end up having very large output differences, because as you go farther in time, the solutions get a little bit farther and farther apart. But again, over the next couple of days, we see nothing significant developing here. Eventually, it looks like some of the energy in the Southwest Gulf, which could be part of 11E, the depression in the Pacific, and then our spin coming up through the Yucatan Channel, kind of merge in a very broad area and push back off towards the east, okay? And that would mean we could have a sloppy rainmaker for portions of Florida. This is on the GFS model only. So as we get towards mid next week, we'll start to see that potentially coming in. Again, today is Wednesday the 2nd. So as we get into Thursday the 3rd, then Friday the 4th, and then Saturday the 5th. Now look, it starts to potentially get wet here, but over the weekend. But the question is that really the main system? Okay? Because behind this, there's still going to be the potential for a little bit of energy to kind of stick around in the Gulf of Mexico. And then you have to ask yourself, does a secondary system try and develop here and then pull its way back in? Okay? So let's look at this one more time. But the highlight is on the GFS, it's relatively weak, but it could be a big rainmaker for the central and the southern sides of Florida. And then on the tail of that, right, look down here. On the tail of that, is there still, yeah, you see that? A little bit of spin coming off the kind of the back end of this system to watch out for in the Southwest Gulf. I've mentioned this in the last couple of videos. This could end up being a two-parter, okay? The system coming out of the Yucatan, Northwest Caribbean, which could develop into something tropical or just be a rainmaker for the Gulf Coast, mainly Florida, and then the energy left over in the Western Gulf that could ultimately spin up and become something as well. And that's exactly what the GFS deterministic is showing you today, okay? So again, could start to get wet in Florida over the weekend, might hold off until early to even mid next week. Timing is still very much up in the air. And the other big thing that's up in the air is this zero systems? Is this one tropical system? Is this potentially two tropical systems? Do you notice, let me bring this back on real quick, how wide this area is from the hurricane center? They're not really leaning into one solution right now either, okay? And again, this is a weather geek's dream. There's a lot to dissect over the next several days, and things are going to be changing, okay? But again, I think there's several factors that come into play. By the way, I'm loading up right now in the GFS deterministic your surface-based winds. I'm going to let that load. And I want you to notice again, we do have, and it's trying to almost right about here, it's trying to spin up something right there over the weekend just off of the West Florida coast. It's trying, but it never fully gets there. Some of these wind speeds, by the way, let me just show you that real quick. And again, whenever I bring this up, it likes to throw the model time off. Some of the wind speeds here, query mode, are pushing, oh, come on. Are you serious right now? There we go. Stay with me. Why? You guys saw that, right? Like 34, 35 miles an hour. Now, why that thing is not cooperating and let me stay with those numbers, there we go. And these are sustained winds, I want to be clear. All right? There is, look at that, little bit weaker winds here. There's a very weak rotation with some potential depression or close to tropical storm force winds. So we don't want to fully discount that what might be trying to get into Florida could try and spin up a bit there. And then again, right at the end of the period, take a look at that. Again, tropical depression to tropical storm force winds, right? And this is taking us out basically 10 days. So the Gulf is going to be active over the next 10 days. Wet and very active. Let's look at the ensemble members. Here's the GFS. Again, we take you into Friday. Not a lot happening. We're still relatively quiet here. Saturday, you see more of the GFS ensembles on the western side of the Gulf. So what tries to push through over the weekend and into early next week may not be much. And then it does try and throw in, if it does develop a storm, more likely the Wednesday, Thursday timeframe, okay? So if the system is faster into Florida, it's probably sloppier and wetter and never organizes. But if it can hang out and pull some of the energy from the Southwest Gulf, ultimately it could be stronger as it's slower and sits in the Gulf longer. I think that's ultimately how this plays, but there's a lot to determine through that. Here's the European model. It's about the same situation for us here. Again, we do have a couple more in the central side of the Gulf earlier in the weekend, and then it still does that same pull to the north and to the east. Again, stopped it Wednesday night. where you still have the majority of the stronger models back into the Gulf. You have the weaker ones that have already come through Florida as a wet, kind of sloppy storm, depression, weak tropical storm. That's all on the table still. But if it's going to get stronger, it's going to have to hang out a little bit more in the Gulf later. And again, remember, now you start to bring in a cold front into timing, and how far north can that stronger storm really go, right? Might be a little bit farther south if it lingers deeper in the next week. All things that still need to be played out. As I mentioned, I think the thing that you can really check mark here is the heavier rain. We're going to have some exceptionally heavy rain in some spots, 2, 4, 6, 8+ inches of rain in some areas. Notice that right at the end of this on Wednesday, the European model pulls that heavier rain back into southwest Florida. Again, that's the impacts of that front. The deeper in time we go next week, we should start to see those winds start to pull the storm back farther south. But that's a lot of 2, 4, 6, 8 inches of rain, or 100 to 200 millimeters in a couple of spots. Again, not expecting as much rain in the Lesser Antilles and the Greater Antilles overall. And then the Bahamas are relatively quiet until we see that moisture come across the state and into the northwest side of the Bahamas again mid next week. But there could still be pockets of very heavy rain in some isolated areas, even in the Lesser Antilles as well. Okay, let's get back over to what's going to be happening with our other areas. So let's first of all just take a look at the satellite imagery here, since we have it, or now it just decided to go away as soon as I said that. So let's go back over to the model data. That's fine. So let's talk about what's happening right now in the area. It looks like we're still, let me just double check something here. Yeah, you know, look, the data feed is still struggling, right? I think we saw maybe just a, okay, well, at least we have the viz, or at least an image. The data feed is still struggling. I've seen that behind the scenes where, again, it cuts out from time to time, but that's okay. So let me load this up, pause this real quick, and let's take a look at things. So let's talk about the active systems. You have now Hurricane Kirk, okay? That's Kirk right there, Category 1 hurricane. It is forecast to now become a Category 4 with winds of 130 miles an hour, gusts to 161. Kirk, again, is a fish storm, stays well away from the Lesser Antilles, stays far away from Bermuda. Thank goodness, because Kirk could be a very, very significant storm. That's where Kirk is at this point in time in the model. If you notice, we now have our new tropical depression. This is 13. Tropical depression number 13. This is going to become Leslie. Okay, the next named storm. What's happening in the Gulf, too far down the road, this is going to be Leslie. So we have the first track from the Hurricane Center. My oh my, would you look at these two wanting to run in the same path? That would be fantastic news. Now this is just the first loop from the Hurricane Center, or on Leslie as far as the first track. This is the GFS deterministic model. Kind of follows that same track, doesn't it? That's great to see, because Leslie could also end up ultimately becoming a strong Cat 2 or maybe even a major hurricane as well. Kirk, again, is forecast to be a Cat 4 as it moves away. This is the track we want with Leslie. This is the one that's going to bear a little bit more watching right now. It's nice to see that the initial cone is this far north and east of the Lesser Antilles and following the same track as Kirk. I'm going to show you the GFS models here. If you take a look, here is Kirk and here is Leslie, okay? Now again, on this Atlantic Basin one, you're going to see there's a little bit more of a spread, based off of not the, the deterministic models, what I showed you, but on the ensembles, a few of them try and nudge Leslie a little bit farther west. At this point in time, I don't have big concerns for our area, but it does bear watching that ultimately we can't just follow that first track from the Hurricane Center. You start to see that some of these models get a little bit closer. We still have a relatively wide berth. I know there's one that would move through, but that's the far southwest one. Otherwise is a cluster of models which has a decent berth of distance between the Lesser Antilles and Leslie. This is the European model at the end of that time frame as well. I just still stored it so I could zoom in on it. It's a little bit more farther south than west overall. The main ensembles, the majority of them, are still north and east of the Lesser Antilles by several hundred miles, but a few of them try and take what's going to become Leslie and pull it a little bit closer. It simply bears watching. I don't have big concerns at this point in time, but for informational purposes, just so you know, some of the models bring it a little bit closer. It does look like, more than likely, based on those deterministic models and even these ensembles, it recurves north well east of the Lesser Antilles. But this time of the year, these storms get strong in a hurry, and they're going to bear watching indeed. Now, we're going to be kicking up the waves big time. I expect some pretty good swells will try and return to the open waters of the Atlantic on the east side of the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, the northern side of Puerto Rico, and portions of the Leeward Islands as well. And then obviously what ultimately might spin up here in the Gulf of Mexico will kick up surf and sea conditions in these areas. And you can just see on this wind chart here the very broad cyclonic spin that is expected, regardless of developments here in the Gulf, which is going to just continue to elevate seas. And then you can see again, we have a bit of a northerly component to the wind here, which could also bring some swells all the way through portions of the Lesser Antilles. Friends, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for following us across all social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video, it's myMediaMundo@gmail.com. As always, while you're there, looking at that description, thank you for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing to Meteo Mundo. I really do appreciate you guys. You have a great rest of your Wednesday. I'm going to be back tomorrow with all the latest forecasts across your area. We'll look at the tropics. We'll take a look at what's going on in your island by island forecast as well. And we'll do it right here at Meteo Mundo.